Hi, I'm John Greaves III, founder of Garage and Life Media, and this next interview shows you one of the advantages that we have because we are a media brand as opposed to primarily a coaching or even an apparel company. Because our focus is on bringing you information that helps you succeed in all facets of home gym ownership, I reached out to a friend of mine so we could talk about something that I've been seeing come up a lot in Google searches, and that is whether having a home gym can add to or take away from the value of your home. My guest is Jorge Borjas, a real estate investor who makes a living by buying old properties, refurbishing them, and selling them, so he has first-hand knowledge of the things that will cause a house to fail inspection, what makes a house more or less attractive to potential buyers, and he even has some experience with home gyms because he was instrumental in helping us when we did our home gym remodel earlier this year. I think that you'll learn a lot from him that will help you if you ever decide to sell or refinance your home. Check it out. Jorge, man, thank you for waking up and spending a Saturday morning with me. I know I'm your favorite person to be with, but it's still got to be rough, because I know the family's up and about and running around, and you're hanging out with
Right.
me instead of hanging out with, your wife and your two little boys. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's all right. Not the first time we've hung out at 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning.
That's true. Yeah, but see, I didn't feed you this time. So, hey, that's true.
Right.
Well, so I'm not going to take up a lot of your time, but like I told you on the phone, I want to draw on your expertise as someone who buys and
Mhm.
sells real estate professionally. Um, just about some of the things that people can do to make sure they don't damage their, what's the largest investment that most people make, which is their home, right? And then
Mhm.
this will also affect, even if people don't own a home, it will also affect renters because it lets them know kind of like what's likely to trigger their landlord as they're making
Mhm.
changes, from the standpoint of a home gym. One of the big things that people like to do in a home gym, it's probably the biggest thing, is after they started working out in their garage, winter time comes, it gets cold. And so they like
Mhm.
to add, they'll add insulation to the
Yeah.
garage door.
Yeah.
There are videos on YouTube that show you how to do it and everything else. But I've also heard that could potentially weaken your door because it reduces the lifespan of the door.
I would say, I guess it depends on what kind of insulation is. If it's not too bulky and it doesn't look like uh, just too big or too, like if it looks like it belongs there, if it looks like it's made for a garage door, then it's actually a good thing because typically garage spaces are not insulated, either in older homes where the garage is under the house. Well, I guess sometimes they do, but and so if the space is insulated, then good. And if it's not insulated, actually, when you want to sell a house, the inspectors and the buyers, they probably will ask you to insulate the ceiling and the walls because it helps with the overall energy efficiency of the home. And then adding the insulation on the doors, it's in keeping
Okay.
with that goal of increasing energy efficiency. And so as long as it doesn't look like makeshift, right, like some rolls of insulation on top of the wall, um, and if you ever did that for your so that you can have your gym, then you can just remove it later, so it's not terrible. But yeah, if it looks like if it is made for doors, then it should be okay. Because again, if it is made for garage doors, then it shouldn't reduce the lifespan of the
Okay. It shouldn't add weight to the motor or anything like
right.
that.
No, because insulation materials are typically very light, like
Okay.
foam, things like
Okay. So let's just talk about another one. So when we moved
that.
into our home here, and you've been to our home multiple times. In fact, you're the one that kind of hooked me up with the people who got all of our renovations done for the home gym. And
Hmm.
people can see that video on here on this channel too. But the thing is that when we first moved in, years before we met you, that wall that's behind me actually extended almost all of the way to the entry door. And
Hmm.
then when we moved in, I cut the wall. And then years later, that space that where the just an open space was, that's where we put that French door that people see. You can see over my shoulder, right?
Right.
All right. So I did. I remove the wall because I was going to put my gym there, and I wanted to be able to move back and forth because I had the kids. I wanted to be, if I'm working out on one side, I want to be able to see them and all that. So what about removing walls or even adding walls, that kind of thing? How does that affect even the perceived value of the home?
Okay, so if you do that, if you add walls, then you do modify the garage space. So if whenever you have to sell the house, if you don't remove in other words, if you want to sell the house and now the garage is not like, doesn't fit cars, like you can't have cars in there, then that might have an impact in value. It all depends on the location. If it's a location where all the houses have garages and people expect to have a garage, then you would have to remove those walls that you put, which, because they're non-load bearing, it's not hard. It's just one of those things where, like, at some point you maybe invested in some materials and some labor to have that installed and paint, and then you might have to remove it when it's all said and done. But it's not a set in stone. Like, it's not that you lower the value of the house forever. No, it's one of those things that if you ever need to sell the house, then you can just remove those non-structural walls very easily. And if you have a wall, for example, dividing the space, let's say you only need one half of the garage, then at that point you might not have to do anything. Like, people might actually like the setup. So I think that when, for example, the setup that you have is one that you have your gym on one half, and then the other half is pretty wide open. You can put cars, or you can do anything else. And so it just has like a wide range of possibilities for a potential buyer. The other thing, I guess, is that the way that the way you have divided your garage in half, you still have the doors open. So you can, like, anybody buying the house would not have to do anything to it, because they can fit cars in both sides. I guess I was thinking more if you put a wall across, like.
Nah, most people wouldn't do. I mean, most people who own a garage wouldn't do that, but they might do something like. Usually, it'd be something like, we're gonna knock out the wall or something like that, because. And I guess it would be the same thing as if you decided, you wanted to put another bedroom downstairs in your garage. So you close off part of the garage to make a bedroom or something. It'd be the same thing, because that when you go to sell it, that wouldn't necessarily count as a bedroom because it doesn't have a window. But you can show the buyer, hey, by the way, here's a room down here. You can use it as a bedroom if you want to, which is what happened with our house. And in fact, the way that we did it, when you and I were talking about it, I said, at some point, I'm going to move all this stuff out of here. I'll put my weights in a different area because we're planning on putting up a building. And then I said, so we'll go back to just using this as a garage. But speaking of a building, everybody doesn't have their home gym in a garage. So you have people who put a building up on their property. I know people who put their home gym on their back deck. And so they'll close in the back deck and put all the weights on the back deck, right? But then you lose your back deck. So again, that goes back to not only the perceived value of the home. Somebody comes in there, they're like, okay, now I don't have I had a back deck, but now there's a roof and it's all closed in. There's this thing attached to the back of my house now, right? So I guess it's like what they, I guess it'd be like what's important to them, because what if the next owner wants to be able to sit outside and barbecue with friends, So,
if you add a structure in the property, that just increases the value. There's nothing negative about that.
But what about the codes, building codes? That's what I'm looking at. It's like, if I go and I build a building out back, it may not matter because it's just for me. But then when I go to sell it, now I have to, I forgot what it's called, but I'm sure you know what it is. It's like the thing where it's like you have like codes about what size buildings you can have on your property.
It depends. It depends. Of course, then you do have to look at what the county allows for accessory dwelling units, ADUs. Different states are different, but in general, we are all, in general here in Georgia, definitely. But actually, I don't know if everywhere, but I know many places because I know California. And California is pretty strict when it comes to everything. They're pretty high in regulations, and they allow ADUs, accessory dwelling units. And here in Georgia, you see it everywhere. Like you'll be driving around, and there's a house, and then there's this like separate garage with a separate in-law, right? Stays like, oh, that's like not a problem. The only thing is that you'll get a permit to build it, and it'll have to be up to code, obviously. So you'll have to have a contractor build it for you. But then there's also some sheds that are pretty big. I guess I don't know if and the sheds that some of these big stores sell, you don't need a permit for it. You just basically buy it and they come install it for you. And I think just it's like a pre-manufactured structure. So, but those are not that big.
But if you're on a septic tank and you put a building out back to use as a gym, and then you put a bathroom there, now you've got an additional, I don't know, I guess it's technically the same number of things going into the septic tank as it's the same number of people living in the home. But I'm thinking like, okay, if you build this shed so that people can, so you can work out there and then you have friends come over to use it, all of a sudden now you're going to have to empty your septic tank more often. And, I guess I'm still looking at it from the point of view of a prospective buyer. If they come in and are you able to say, hey, look, hey, there's even a bonus building here, does that, would that make you be able to add more money to what you can ask from them?
Accessory buildings, it brings more value to a property for sure. And then, because the thing is, if you have a building with a home gym and you put a bathroom, you just have to check your septic tank capacity, which most of the time they're fine, because the main thing is the number of people, like you said, not necessarily the number of bathrooms. Yeah. It's the number of, they actually count the bedrooms because they think, okay, how many people are going to live here? But then if you have at a bathroom, now you have plumbing, and you could easily make it into a mother-in-law suite or a guest house, and then rent it. I mean, that's a really good thing to have a separate building. And then going back to your other example of enclosing the back deck with the roof, and that's actually not a bad thing either, because I guess it depends on how you enclose it. But
like if you screen it in instead of putting walls, but you put because I was thinking like put a screen around it now to keep the mosquitoes out so I can relax out there. Yeah.
No, actually, again, that brings up the value because now it's a screened-in porch. And a screened-in porch is very valuable. It's more valuable than a deck because it's just A screened-in porch is actually increases the value of a home more than a deck does.
Okay. So I had a couple other things, but this just occurred to me. So as we're recording this, we're in the middle of this pandemic, quarantine, all that kind of stuff, and people are more, the home gym market has kind of exploded. People are just buying equipment left and right. You can just make something and just name it home gym, and stuff that people wouldn't even look twice at before. Now they're like charging to get it, right? So, is that Samuel?
Elijah.
Is Elijah? Hey, that's cool.
I will. Can you give me 20 minutes? I'll be there.
Hey, that's okay, man. Hey, we have a family first policy.
I know.
If it make you feel better, I have my son stand here too. Hey, no.
I'm on the phone with John. I'll be there soon. Okay.
That's awesome.
I'll be there.
That's awesome.
Yes. So you were saying?
No. So what I'm saying is like everyone's more into home gym stuff now, right? And so if somebody came to my home, let's say you were trying to sell somebody my house, could you use it as a selling point? The fact that, hey, I already have it set up to be a gym. You can say, hey, well, man, I see you're into fitness. It's already set up for a home gym. Could that be a selling point?
Yeah. I think it is a selling point because I've actually thought about this, and it's because the pandemic is only a few months old, so it's not like we have years of data, but it makes sense that because people are going to be spending more time at home, they're going to work from home. Yeah. And even after the pandemic is over, and we, if things go back to normal, really, we're never going back.
Right. That's what I was going to say. It's never going to go back to the way it was.
No, we're never going back to the normal that we knew. It's going to be a new normal. And this new normal is going to include a lot of people working from home. Like I hear that. I've been hearing it several times by different people, how since the pandemic, before the pandemic, they were kind of working from home every now and then. And then after the pandemic, now it's all 100%.
Right.
And so they spend more time at home. And so they're going to need, if they don't have it, they're going to need houses that have either the extra room or an office. So an office space, I predict that is going to become a new thing where people will value that. And then also the home gym. And to be like, for example, for somebody to have a equipment or like a treadmill in their room or in their living room, that's not ideal, right?
Right.
And so to have that extra space, to have some kind of equipment or machines, that's also going to be a selling point, just like the office, because now, you decided that, well, the thing is, like the gyms are very limited. Like nowadays, like going to the gym is so limited. Like they have like a limit in the amount of people, and
so the waiting times are going to be longer. You can only get like so many people can be in at a time. So
yeah, so
my schedule might conflict with this other person's conflict. Yeah.
It's terrible because like, I don't know what the limit used to be, but now it's like they put a limit of 8 to 12 people in the weight room. And so now you have to wait, you have to kind of go do something else. It just throws you off. A lot of the equipment and accessories were removed to reduce the contact, possibilities. And then the daycare, there's no daycare. And so to be able to work out at home it's become very positive. It's just so
right.
It just gives you an advantage if you're trying to stay fit and trying to work out. It gives you that advantage if you have that set up at home. And so to have that extra space is ideal. To have that garage or an extra room or just something where you can actually separate your equipment, close the door.
So they can get in there. If you're a mom, you got, 2 kids or whatever, and they're very young, you want to just give me 45 minutes to just do my workout, So having that room might be a selling point because she's like, oh, wow, it's already set up. None of you are allowed in here for any reason ever. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
And then like for example, what you were saying, how you have that door there with clear glass so you can see your kids or hear them.
Right.
We don't have that in like right now. It's like we would like that, right? Because we can't go to the gym because there's no daycare. And so we can't take our kids in. And so
I promise you, Jorge, I'll be happy to help you set up a home gym. I'll be happy to do it. I've been trying to bring you into the brotherhood forever.
So basically in short, it's a good selling point to have that, to have that space that says, to say, we had a home gym here, like we have it set up, like, and since you're selling and you live there, like it'll be staged with your equipment and stuff, and people will be able to see it.
You got mad at me because I had to hang my heavy bag. He scolded me. Everybody who's watching this, I want you to know he looks friendly, okay? But he scolded me. He looked at the thing because I cut a hole into the rafter. And you looked at me and said, why did you do that? I was like, I got defensive. I had to hang it somehow. The next time you want to hang something, you call me first. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. So talk about the whole thing about hanging stuff, however you hang it and what you can do to like make sure you don't screw up your home value.
Yeah. So that doesn't affect the value. It's just it affects the structure. And so I guess if you live there, you don't want to compromise the structural integrity of the property. And if you want to sell the house, then an inspector might flag it, right?
Okay. So something like what I did, to like drill the hole through into the rafter, is that something an inspector would look at and say, oh, that needs to be fixed?
Yes,
Okay.
but the thing is, there's a, I don't want to get too technical, but for example, in a rafter, which is pretty common, right? In a garage, you have a garage. If it's a one of if it's a house with a garage on the main level, so above the garage is just attic space.
Right.
Well, in general, really in general, actually. So when it comes to the rafters, either roof rafters or in the garage, the floor joists, you just want to stay away from the middle third.
Okay.
If you're gonna hang things, a weight bag, which the heaviest weight bag would be the punching bag.
Yeah. And that doesn't really, it hangs, but the weight is actually not supported 100% by the ceiling, because I have a banana bag. So that's a long kicking bag, like the Muay Thai style bag. So the bag actually touches the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it's lightly resting on the ground.
Yeah.
It's just the top is one of the balance points. You know what I mean?
Right.
It hangs, but then it's supported by the ground.
In that case,
not like a boxing bag, which is only like hanging halfway or whatever like that.
Yeah. Yes. In that case, it's not. Then it won't put all the weight.
See, got mad at me for nothing.
But the thing is, the inspector will flag it if there's a hole in there.
Yeah.
Even if you're not putting that much weight on it, but there's a hole, so the inspector will say like, "Oh, that's not allowed there." So in general, as a rule of thumb, basically stay away from the middle third. If you're going to drill a hole, go to the two outer 2/3 or the outer thirds of the beams to just stay
around the perimeter.
Yeah, just as much, because I know sometimes you need some space to get around it. So just basically, it's a general rule: stay away from the middle third of a beam, because that's where the largest tension force is happening. And so if you drill a hole there, and then as far as paint is always a good thing, unless you paint it like a crazy fuchsia color.
So it's like the home gym is crafted to, like, you set up so it motivates you. Yeah. So it's nothing to see. Like, I've seen home gyms that one guy, I'm thinking on Instagram, his entire gym is painted in the colors of the Los Angeles Lakers. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like the whole thing is purple and gold. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then black and red is very popular also, because those are the original colors of the Air Jordan sneaker, the Georgia Bulldogs. I can't imagine why somebody would paint their house in Atlanta Falcons colors, but I'm sure somebody would. Anyway, but you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just whatever you're into will be painted that way. So then you're going to sell the house. You got to come back and, paint it, I guess, neutral colors, right? Are there any paint colors that are harder to cover up?
I mean, there's some paint is harder, but you basically have to spend a little extra in primer. Yeah. So no, anything can be covered. So when it comes to the house, in painting, your garage, your home gym. So it's one of those things where it's your space, so you can do whatever you want with your space. But, I hate to say, but if you ever had to sell a house, just be prepared to probably having to paint it again as part of the sale. You don't have to paint it before. You can either paint it before. If you paint it before, it's perfect. Like now it's like when people come in, it's like they're not going to think anything of it. Right. But if you have a nice setup, it looks really nice. It's everything. It includes your paint choices. It might give buyers because a lot of people are not able to see beyond what they see. Right. They don't see potential. They don't see the potential. Like whatever they see, they think that's what it is. And as a seller, you're like, but talk to me. Like I can paint it. Or I'll give you a credit to paint it in the color you want to paint it. So, but a lot of times buyers it's just that first impression. And so just be ready to paint the house again if you have a Lakers colors here in Georgia.
Yeah, so if you're in Boston and
Yeah.
you paint your gym Laker colors, it's gonna be harder to sell that house. I didn't even think about that. Okay,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, just be ready to paint over it again, but it's not hard to paint,
It's just extra money.
It's just extra money, but it's not hard. I mean, if you do it yourself, it's just a few $100. And it depends on the size of the house, of the space.
Well, and then it's a couple $100, but then it's like, okay, you never know what else the buyer is going to ask you to have to pay for, just through the process of having to sell that house. So just another thing. Tell me, when it comes down to it, like, is anything that somebody could do potentially to create a home gym, right? Keeping in mind, it's not necessarily in the garage. It could be anywhere in the house. Is there anything you would say, absolutely never do that, because that's going to cost you? It's not that you can't recover from it, but it's just going to be so expensive to come back from.
Okay, I got a good one. So the garage spaces are typically, most of the time they're for 2 cars, right?
Right.
And so in the middle you have supports.
Right.
Those supports are structural. They're load-bearing supports in the middle. And I can see somebody thinking, oh, I just want it all open. I don't want posts in the middle. It's on the way. Maybe the way they want to set up their equipment is like, man, the steel post is on the way. I'll remove it. No.
Yeah. Don't do that.
I think your whole house is gonna fall in. So anything that has to do with structural components like posts, if there's already a wall somehow in there, also like maybe, let's say that you have a basement garage, and then half of it is garage, the other half is some room or something. Then also you need to be careful with removing the transverse walls.
Okay.
Maybe you're thinking you want to make it bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to add a wall, that's not a problem. It's fine. You don't have to talk to anybody. But if you're thinking about removing a post or removing a wall, then maybe you need to talk to somebody that knows structures, because you never know if it might be load bearing. So that's definitely a no, like starting to remove structural supports without consulting somebody that knows about that.
But something like bolting a lot of things to the wall, even a bunch of pegboard, is that something that would be something you would say, okay, you need to think about the cost if you plan on selling this thing? Because I'm thinking like, especially somebody in the military, they move every 3 years. So they buy, they take their home gym with them everywhere they go. It's like, okay, is this worth, is this something that you would say, well, think about it before you go ahead and do that?
There are certain things that homeowners can do that doesn't affect the value, and meaning it doesn't affect the value either up or down. So it doesn't lower the value to add pegboards or like shelves or things like that. If anything, it looks good, looks better, is useful, but it doesn't mean that if you spent $1,000 and things like that you're going to sell it for $1,000 more. It doesn't mean that. So there are certain things that are not going to increase the value of the home, and those would be examples. But it doesn't hurt you either way. It doesn't affect the value, but it looks good. Like, because it's something that, think about it, I guess it's almost like you already did the work for the new buyers. Like, they don't have to go buy pegboards to hang their tools, right? So
in the case of like a folding squat rack, because people like to be able to park in the garages, you now have these folding squat racks, right? And they bolt to the wall, because that's how, they get away with not having to, being able to fold. So you bolt it to the wall, and then when you either fold it down or you fold it out, then the front 2 posts are supported by the ground, but then you fold it back in, right? Mm-hmm. So that means it's bolted into the wall pretty securely. But you have to put, what I'm saying is, like, they'll have you put it like a beam across so you can bolt to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially if your wall is sheetrock.
Yeah.
So then when you're leaving, there's down this piece of wood that's just across the wall for whatever reason, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so the next person comes in and is like, why is this random board just here?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Just like when you're putting up a TV, like, like when you're putting up a big, 70-inch TV, what do? Like you somehow find the studs and you bolt into the studs so that the bracket holds the TV like really securely. So just like that, like you make sure like, okay, let's find where the studs are. Let's put as many screws as possible. And then you just gotta be smart about it and like don't be a monkey and hang from it when it's not being used. Don't let kids like hang from it because it looks cool and so, but actually when it's being used, make sure the bear's on the floor because if it's hanging on the wall, you don't want to have any accident. Okay.
Well, man, I appreciate your time, and I know you're not like the social media person, all right? But you never know. There might be somebody in Colorado who's getting ready to move to Georgia, and they're like, you know what? I need a house, and that Jorge looks like he knows what he's talking about. So I want to buy a house from him. So if you want people to be able to get in touch with you, how would you like them to get in touch with you? And if you don't want them to get in touch with you, you want to remain a ghost under the radar, then, who do you want them to follow? You can, anything that's important to you.
No, they can just find my company on Facebook, BNR Investments in Construction. If they look that up, they'll find us. And they can just Google it and the Facebook page might come up. So BNR Investments in Construction on Facebook or website brinvestmentshousebuyers.com, and both of those platforms have the email and Facebook. Obviously, you can send a message and leave comments, and either we can help you with whatever you need as far as real estate, or we can point you in the right direction.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Our goal is to inspire and inform you to help you succeed as you pursue your fitness goals at home. If you'd like to see more from us, check the video that's above my head. Or if you'd like to get some home gym merch for yourself, click the link to visit our apparel store. Be sure to tag us on Instagram when you get your stuff in so we can give you a shout out in our stories. And I'll see you next time.